8%. In the form of stock market returns, beautiful, 8%. In the form of a mortgage interest payment, not so much. If you had gotten an 8% mortgage, it would have cost you 3 times more interest payments compared to the exact same loan from 2021. And the math do be mathing. A $400,000 loan in 2021 at a 2.85% interest, you would pay $195,000 in interest over the life of the loan. That same loan with an 8% interest, you would pay $656,000 in interest alone. In a study published by The Economist, it turns out that for 89% of Americans, it is now cheaper to rent a 2-bedroom place versus buying a comparable one, but not so fast. Because this chart shows that for the vast majority of the middle class, over 50% of their net worth comes from owning a primary residence. So does that mean that you should stretch to somehow make ends meet to become a homeowner? Well, that is exactly what we're going to discuss today. I'm gonna help you decide whether you should rent or buy, all by simply just applying the rule of 18. And if you're new here, hi, I'm John of John's Finance Tips. I myself am a homeowner in addition to being a real estate investor, but not too long ago, I was in your exact same shoes. This was peak the world shutting down in 2020. Nobody knew which way was up and down, and we were deciding whether we should continue renting to see where things shake out or should we buy. And along the way, there were a lot of things to consider. So first, we're gonna talk about all the various associated costs both to renting as well as buying. Then we'll go over the rule of 18 so you can decide for yourself what makes sense for your situation. So the 4 costs that you're gonna want to consider are your starting cost, basically table stakes, the ongoing costs, what does it actually take to keep things running, the opportunity costs, which are costs that what could you be doing with this money had you not rented or bought, and lastly, what I think is almost the most important are the intangible costs. That's certain je ne sais quoi. Yes, that's some high school French for you, but really these are the things that you might not be able to tie a number to it, but there's certain things that definitely weigh on you. So first, let's talk about renting and all those various associated costs. These are things to consider if you want to continue renting. So starting costs. This one irks me the most, and it's called the broker's fee. This is money you pay to someone for unlocking a door and showing you a 1-bedroom, 2-bedroom studio apartment. And these fees tend to come in at 1 month's rent. So if you're somewhere like Boston or New York or LA, you could be paying 2, 3, 4 grand just for someone to walk you in. Yeah, I know, make it make sense. Next, you have the security deposit, which is usually equivalent to 1 month's rent. And I'm gonna put this here, you don't have to, you can put it in another section, but you have the starting cost of first and last month's rent. And so sometimes you might have to pay first month, last month, security deposit, and broker's fee all at the same time, and that can add up to a hefty sum. Ongoing costs. So for renters, you'll have rental insurance, and the only other big one, and the main one, is rent, month over month. Opportunity costs. So this is what your money could be doing instead of paying for rent. First one, building equity in a home. If you are renting and you don't buy a home, you are not building equity. And equity, you can kind of think of it as a bit of a piggy bank that at some point, if you had a home, you can tap into that equity, whether it be for emergencies or an investment opportunity. You're not getting any of that. Instead, what you're doing is helping your landlord build equity. Basically, you're buying your landlord a house. The second thing you aren't doing, and very closely tied to equity, is you're not growing your net worth. What you're doing every single month when you're paying for rent is building someone else's net worth, but you are just flatlined. And as we think about what a total cost could be for opportunity costs, this is well in the neighborhood of hundreds of thousands or maybe even over $1 million. Now onto the intangible costs of renting. The first one is that there is this weird societal pressure to buy a home. I partly attribute it to the whole American dream, white picket fence, own a home, great. But nevertheless, it's kind of annoying if you don't intend to buy a home. And every time you're at a function with friends or family or even colleagues, they're asking, oh, have you thought about buying a home? Are you looking to buy a home? Oh, home prices are going up. Are you thinking of buying? Oh, home prices are going down. Are you thinking of buying? It's like, folks, I'll buy when I buy, but why does it feel like everyone is constantly asking when I'm going to? Another intangible is the worry of having to move, because when you rent, you're renting the place from someone else. And if that someone else decides to sell the building, you have to move. Not only that, are you currently living with roommates? Are your roommates gonna continue renting with you? And then when you move, are you gonna get different roommates, other roommates? And all of that can just be pretty annoying year over year. Another intangible that's closely associated with moving is rent. Usually goes up year over year. And you have very little control over that. And not to mention, if you're currently living with roommates, if they decide to go live with other people, if they decide to buy, if they go to a different chapter of their life or move away, you have to find new roommates. Or maybe you have to now rent a studio or a one bedroom, and those costs can go up, and you have very little control over that. On the flip side though, when we're renting, we're pretty fluid. We're not locked down in a place. Hey, I'm in Boston, I live in Seaport 1 year, I don't like it, I'll move over to Somerville. I don't like that, maybe I'll move down to Allston. So that's really nice, especially if you're just in a new city, exploring, trying to figure out where you want to put your roots down. Another intangible benefit is that when you're renting and something breaks, it is not your problem. Toilet is clogged? Great, call the landlord. Electricity went out? Great, call the landlord. There's something weird with the paint in the walls? Call the landlord, because at the end of the day, I'm renting, not my problem. And I will say it, folks, as a landlord on this side, oh gosh, I miss the days where it was oh, not my problem, let me call somebody. Because nowadays, if something goes wrong in where I live, I have to fix it. And if something goes wrong where with any of my tenants live, I have to fix it. So I can absolutely say that is a great intangible benefit to renting. And my last point as an intangible benefit for renting is that you can earn points for paying rent. You can't do that if you own a home. Specifically, if you use the no annual fee Bilt MasterCard, you can actually take that large monthly expense, $2,000, $3,000, $4,000 a month, and earn points for it and flip it into free travel. And the Bilt MasterCard is my #1 no annual fee premium travel card of 2024. This card allows you to earn 3x on dining, 2x on travel, 1x everywhere else, 1x on rent, as long as you swipe the card 5 times in a statement cycle, and you can earn up to a max of 100,000 points just on rent every single year. And if you'd like a breakdown of the card, I can leave a link up here, but the short of it is, if you pay rent, get the Bilt MasterCard. If you're gonna continue paying rent, get the Bilt MasterCard. And if you don't know and you just like travel and you want a no annual fee card, jump on the Bilt MasterCard. And if you'd like to support my channel, you can feel free to check out my affiliate referral link in the description box down below. Now let's talk about some of the things we should consider if we're gonna buy. The first thing are gonna be your starting costs. If you're gonna buy a home, you're gonna need to come up with a down payment. This down payment could be anywhere from 3 to 20% of the home value. So this could easily be tens, maybe even hundreds of thousands of dollars. The next thing you want to consider is closing costs. So these are all the various associated costs to actually getting the loan closed. And this is typically where I've found anywhere from 1 to 1.5% of the entire home value. And so this could be thousands, stretching all the way to tens of thousands of dollars. Next, we have ongoing costs. So the biggest one as a homeowner is gonna be your mortgage payment. And within your mortgage payment, you'll have things like taxes and insurance, which every single year, for the most part, are gonna go up. The other ongoing cost you have is gonna be maintenance. Unlike renting, you own the thing. If it breaks, you fix it. And trust me, things will break. It's not just maintenance of a lawn, but it's maintenance like maybe your boiler, your roof, your gutters, windows, any of that is on you. Whether you do it or you hire someone else, doesn't matter, the buck stops with you. And now we have opportunity costs. As a reminder, opportunity cost is what else you could be doing with your money. The biggest one I would say is not having it in the market. This year, the S&P 500 is up 20%. Instead, let's say at the beginning of the year, you took $100,000, put it into a down payment, and you've been making monthly mortgage payments since. Well, your opportunity cost, had you maybe instead taken the $100,000 and just thrown it into an S&P 500 index fund, is $20,000. What you instead did was you put it into your property and you paid into it in the hope that you appreciated 20% this year, which you could argue one way or another, but that's how you want to conceptualize your opportunity cost, especially when it comes to such a large purchase as a home. The other opportunity cost is your monthly mortgage payment. Let's say when you were renting, you had roommates, you were only paying $500 or $1,000 a month to live. Now you bought a home and you are solely responsible for $3,000, $4,000, $5,000 a month. Well, the opportunity cost in this instance would then be you're spending $3,000, $4,000, $5,000 a month just to make a home payment, instead of if you were saving some of that and then you were able to put the delta into the stock market and appreciate that faster than had you put it into your property. Now onto the intangible costs. 1, you break it, you fix it. As a homeowner, it is now your circus and it is most definitely your monkey. It's the constant thinking of, okay, we recently just did the stairs. How long will that hold up? Ooh, looks like some of the grout on the back patio area is coming up. Ooh, we have to install a sump pump because we're getting a little bit of flooding. Does the roof need to be installed? Is the chimney leaning over? It's just constant stuff that piles on and on and on. And there's really no one to call other than contractors. And don't even get me started on trying to find contractors. Next, we have location, location, location. Are you ready to commit to this particular street, this particular corner, this particular cul-de-sac, which usually cul-de-sacs are great, for the next 10, 20, 30 years? Because if you pick up and move again, remember, starting costs over again. Have you had enough appreciation? Are you ready to go? And if not, then are you firmly committed to being where it is you are planting your roots down? Another intangible costs. What are my neighbors like? Am I going to like my neighbors? Are they helping to add to my property value? Am I adding to everyone's property value? Do they like me? On the flip side, there are some benefits. For one, you have a bit of a inflation protection. And what I mean by that is, with inflation, prices tend to go up. Housing prices tend to go up. Housing costs tend to go up, and your home value will generally tend to go up a bit to match inflation pace. Not that you're getting an outsized return, but just that over time, everything goes up. And so if you're a homeowner, you can at least feel protected in the sense that you are going to be keeping up with inflation. Second thing is, you don't have to worry about your rental costs. For the most part, you have a small variance of what your mortgage payment will be year over year. Obviously, you're going to have adjustments for taxes and insurance, but it won't be something in which we're seeing rental rates jump 5, 10, 15, 20% year over year. Now let's move on to deciding whether you should be renting or buying. Million different ways to do this. If you go online, there's actually a really cool calculator from the New York Times that allows you to put every single parameter under the sun, and it will tell you the optimal number as to whether or not it makes sense to rent or buy. As you can see with this calculator, it's very granular. I mean, it's asking for things like, what do you think inflation will be in the next 5, 10, 15 years? Folks, I don't know what I'm having for dinner tonight. I cannot predict inflation. So instead of having to have a PhD in macroeconomics to determine whether or not I should rent or buy, we should use instead the rule of 18. So I first heard about the rule of 18 from Mark Zandi. He's the chief economist at Moody's Analytics. I wish I knew this rule when I was first starting out because it is just almost dumb simple. So to use the rule of 18, all you do is take the home value divided by the annual rental costs and you get a number. And that number, if it's greater than 18, you're gonna rent. If it's less than 18, you're going to buy. You're probably thinking, why 18? The rule of 18 isn't just some made up number that we just plucked out of the air. It is the average price to rent ratio in the United States today. Meaning, if we take the median home value in the US and we divide it by the average rental cost, we get 18 as a number. And so the reasoning is, if in your particular area, the price to rent ratio is greater than 18, then it's quote unquote more expensive and therefore you should consider renting. However, if that number, that price to rent ratio is under 18, then it seems relatively cheaper than the rest of America and you should consider buying. But because it's a ratio and not just a, this is the dollar amount, you also want you to factor in your ability to be able to afford the actual either rental or the cost to purchase. Let's walk through two quick examples. I'm from Boston, and I'm very familiar with this area. So let's take a look at some of the surrounding suburbs. We found a place in Lexington. This property is a 3-bed, 2-bath, about 1,500 square feet, listed at a little bit over $1 million to buy. Oof, that's hefty. If instead though I was considering renting, looks like a 3-bed, 2-bath, almost 1,700 square foot home will cost me $4,500 a month. That would mean every single year I could either elect to pay $54,000 to rent, or I could try to buy the home for a little bit over $1 million. So let's go ahead and plug this into our formula to see whether or not we should rent or buy based on the rule of 18. So we take 1,083,000 divided by 54,000 and we get 20. 20 is greater than 18, therefore I should actually consider renting. I'm sure plenty of people out there are gonna say, why the heck is someone paying $4,500 a month to rent? Well, it's just an expensive area, but again, this gives you a quick back of the napkin, okay, should I consider renting, should I consider buying? Let's move on to another neighborhood a little bit south of Lexington, still pretty nice, it's called Newton. In Newton, we can rent a 3-bed, 2-bath for $4,900 a month, which would mean every single year we will spend $58,800 to rent. Conversely, we could look to buy a property, 3-bed, 2-bath for about $950,000. So we plug that into our formula, 950,000 divided by 58,800 and we get 16. So in this situation, 16 less than 18, I should consider buying. Again, big caveat, it's really expensive and it's gonna be up to you, but that is how I would at least go about evaluating, should I rent or should I buy? Now I'd love to hear from you folks down below. What are some other considerations you would put out there? Have you heard of this rule of thumb before? Or have you even used the New York Times article? And if you guys would like more real estate comment, drop it down below as well. As always, this has been a great video and I will catch you all on the next one. Peace.